SGMO here. We're going to be starting the first of the advanced parts today. Sorry. This I think was actually on my CSWA, so this might be one of the parts that you might see depending on when you take your CSWA in the next few years. They might change the parts that come out, but I think this was one of them. So we're going to do it because advanced parts should be all the parts that you might actually see and the parts you should be working on. So I have a few of those that I can bring up for this whole series. So we're going to do those as the advanced parts, probably do 5 or 10 of them. And then we'll move on to like projects. I think the first project we'll do is like a Pinewood Derby car box, and we'll do the wheels and we'll do everything and then assemble it and maybe do like an airflow study. So be on the lookout for the rest of the advanced parts and the first project that we're going to do and the first real assembly that we'll build from the ground up. So that'll be fun. But let's talk about this first advanced part and get moving on it. It's not too tough of a part if you know what you're doing, but it can get complicated quick because there's a lot going on here. At least 6 features depending on how you build it. Some people would say it'd be best to like do this block, make a square A and B, extrude it out from the mid plane because that's I believe our origin is right at the back center here. So yeah, mid plane it. Square from the origin point, if you can see what I'm talking about, and then start making all these cuts and like extrude it the 30, the widest part, and then start cutting into all those pieces. I don't like that though, because what we've been showing you and what I like to do is I like to draw the general profile of the biggest part and then get the measurements and then extrude that and then do your work from there. That way you're getting the most detail from your first sketch on your 3D model. So I want to do this A, B, and then get these 2 ratios in here, C, and then find out these distances, and then only extrude to this thinnest point. Because then we just have to do some extrudes to get the rest of the features in, instead of having to like cut into the block multiple times and try to... You'll see there's a lot more lines that you'll have to measure and put in if you do it that way. So you can give it a try that way, but we're going to do it the way I want to do it, and you could see if you try it on your own time how much more difficult or how many more lines you'd have to draw, or maybe even more convert entities tool. And nobody wants to do that much more work. Like I've mentioned, this is all like time stuff, so we want to do things quickly, and we want to be able to get through the parts as fast as possible without taking too much time. This was 59? I'll double check that. I know this one was 48. And we're working in alloy steel. We're going to do 1060. I'll update that somewhere because I was just I'm really general until I get into the video and pick. Okay, we have all our stuff. Let's sketch on that front plane like we mentioned. We're going to go up the distance of A, and I need to double check that distance and make sure I have. I got them backwards. I can already tell you that now. It's too long. This will equal B, and we could still do this because we will just edit the equation. 96, 136, 139. So let's... And this is why we do this too, because, it's easy to see those changes and make them very quick. And now we have that general profile. I believe this came down from that point 10. I don't think I was coincident with that. 10. I'm not going to put the angle in. We'll just kind of throw the general shape. And we're going to come down to this midpoint line. Because with this, we're going to use a lot of mirroring along this line. And you'll see me do that throughout this. It's going to make things a lot faster. We know this angle was equal to C, which was 48. Awesome. I believe this distance was 30.5. We can double check all these distances. I don't always have them memorized. Maybe it was 35.5. Yeah, we'll double check that here. Yep, to this line was 30.5, and then this one was 35.5, so we can get that square in. So let's do here to here. Oop, not that line. Here to here. Okay, fully defined now. It looks good. Let's get back in there real quick, and let's do this. Mirror entities. We're just going to grab these lines, click on that one, and mirror this, and we'll close the shape. And now it's fully defined because we have all the defined properties here. Alright, let's extrude this from the mid plane, and it didn't grab our sketch automatically, so we'll do that. I think it was 19. Let's just double check that we got the right distance on there. Normal distance 19, perfect. Okay, see how we have that general shape, and we have now what we only have to do is add those pieces that come off, make that cut, and we should be good to go. So let's make this first little additive because it's kind of easy, I think. 35, 17 tall, and you can tell it just rides the shape that we already have set out in play. So that's an easy convert entities tool. I'm going to keep sketching on the front plane because it's going to be easier for us in the end to what's the word I'm looking for? Not 175. It's going to be easier for us to just trim some things away using that convert entities tool than anything. I think that was 17.5. We knew it just was coincident, like I said. And this is where I mean we could draw these lines real quick, or we could come here, click, click, convert them, trim that edge, and now we're good. Let's double check those measurements though. 17 and 35. I might have gone a little off there. 17.5 and 35. Yeah, I had a feeling. I always double check those measurements. You don't want to be screwing anything up, especially on an exam. Perfect. And now what we can do is, let's grab that center line tool one more time, find that middle point of this plane. You're going to see me do this a few times in this video. It's really good practice to get something like this going. My teacher wasn't really a big fan of the mirror tool because he says you can mess it up a lot. And I do believe that's true, especially if you're moving quick. But just make sure that you're doing things correct and you shouldn't have too much of a problem. See what I mean? And then we're going to extrude that. And I believe that one was 26. Maybe 22. Let's try 26 first and we'll come back and fix it. That actually looks right. 26, and you can see it's coming to this line. And then the biggest one is this middle point at 30. So we're going to throw that in there next because that'll be easy to draw and do. So this one, again, we can sketch on the front plane. And then look at this. We can convert entities this and this. Done. Grab this here. Trim. Now we have this box. Looks good. This one was 30 from the mid plane. Cool. Now we're even getting closer to our general shape. Now with this, and this is another reason why we built this one out before this one, because we have to cut into this, don't we? Because this side is cut in. You can see it in the ISO and you can see it here. So let's do that cut. 6.5 wide from the corner, 11.5 deep. And it looks to be the entirety, whole length. Yeah, 6.5. So we're going to draw that on this surface, right? You said it was 6.5. Let's grab that convert entities tool. All three of these lines. That line's fine. Then we can come up. Trim. We got a solid shape. Let's extrude cut that. And I think it was 11.5. That looks good. Let's double check those measurements. 6.5, 11.5, the whole thing. Okay, good. We're moving along nicely. Now for those last little hole cuts, and those are on this surface. We could go, honestly, let's continue what we've been doing, and let's go mid-plane. Because that works just as fine with me. Keeping up with what we've been doing. I think this one was 51. I think this was 5.5. No, it was bigger than that, but we'll edit that in a second. Let's dimension this, and I think it was 30. And let's dimension this. It was 15, maybe 20. Let's throw in 20. This 5.5. That's weird. Oh, that's why. Okay, we can erase this one. All right, let's double check all those measurements real fast. We're 51 wide, we got that. We got the radius of 5.5, we got it 17. And since this is mirrored, most of this has been mirrored, you can see the symmetry behind it. We're not going to worry about that. 17.5, 30.5. Cool. Okay, now we can We can do two things here. We could mirror it in the sketch, which I think is a better idea because it's faster. That's what we've been doing this whole time. Because we can get that little middle line to show up really nicely there. And there's nothing in mirror feature to mirror across, if you know what I'm talking about. So when you get to that point, if you try to do a feature mirror, you're going to see that you can't. And that's where some of those ones that we've talked about in other videos, sometimes it works to do it in feature, sometimes it works to do it in drawing. Know when it's best and know when to use it. This is going to be through all both. Perfect. And now we know we have some fillets to toss in there, and that's going to be our last step as always. So let's grab the 4 times fillet. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we can go, I think it was 2.5. Let's double check those numbers though. 4 times fillet at 2.5, and you'll get that section view to see the fillet edge, because how else really would we give that without being in the section view? I believe that is our part. We did that pretty quickly. I won't lie, we kind of flew through that. But that's good because we're getting faster and that's how it should be. Like I mentioned before in a few different videos, basic parts, 5-10 minutes max. Intermediate parts, 7.5 minutes to 12 minutes. Advanced parts, 10 to 15, maybe 20 depending on the intricacies and if you maybe have never seen it before and you need to kind of think to get it done. But I believe that's our part. Yeah, that is the part. All right, I'm going to put the stuff in the description like I always do with the mask properties. Go double check that you got it. This part is literally a part from the CSWA, really similar to it, just a couple changes. So essentially we're going to make a few changes like they would ask. I think on this one they did change the material, and that was the only point I missed, was I didn't realize they had me change the material, and I had to go back and double check that. So let's change it to like brass. Why not? And then if I remember right, they also changed A and C. So we're gonna make those changes as well. And I think they changed A to like 106, and then I think they changed C to 45. So you can see those changes. And because we did everything center lined in relation to A, everything moved with it, which is how we like this part. And when they ask for the center of mass and all that on different parts, again, you got to be real specific on those things. So we're gonna put those mass properties for those changes in the description. Be on the lookout. Best practices as always. If you're ending a video and going on to the next one, pause the next video. Try to bust it out. If you can bust it out in 10 to 15 minutes and then you go check the description, you've got the right information, skip the video. Like, I don't want you wasting your time watching these videos if you're good at it and you know what you're doing. But if you're hitting walls, go watch the video, double check what you missed, make a little note of it, literally like write it down on the notepad. I forgot that you could fillet this. I extruded here when I probably should have done this sketch portion first and then cut into it. And those notes that you literally write down, they'll stick with you a lot longer than if you just go and watch the video and then change it. So always be thinking about best practices and memorizing how to be the best modeler you can. And one last thing I want to touch on with this part, I legit did almost miss this, and I'm really glad that I came back and double checked my part. And what saved me was going at each face and looking at it, and I realized the mistake I had made by looking at the top face. I had extrude cut that portion, and then I made this extrusion outwards, right? But because I made the extrusion outwards with this portion already cut, it was only extruding out here from the mid plane. You see what I'm saying? So I had a blank hole on the back, and my weight was off slightly from what theirs was. And so I knew I had something wrong. I just couldn't figure it out. But once I started going through all the views, I went to this top view. I saw that missing cut here, and I was like, oh crap! And I knew what I had to do. And it was literally just as simple as deleting that extrusion, editing the one sketch, and then adding the extrusion back in, and then I was spot on all my numbers. So be on the lookout for that kind of stuff, especially with parts in the advanced section of the test, because they're trying to throw you off with how fast you're moving and what you're thinking. All right, guys, I think that was it for our part. I appreciate it. Check it out. Have a good one. We'll talk to you guys another time for part 2 of advanced parts.